On this episode of the John 1911 podcast, Tommy gets bent, the Ninth Circus Act, 1911 buying bug, and the Cherokees want money.
Our expertise on movie critiquing is, second to none. So I think it's really good.
I'll tell you what. I actually, because I had to go and look for some of the scenes of movies that we referenced or scenes that we referenced. And I started even so first of all, I had to go find scenes from Streets of Fire to put it in the comments section or clips. And then I had to find scenes from Delta Force. And what was interesting in Delta Force is the terrorists in that movie were using, I believe it was Polish PM-63s. And I had never really... I could be mistaken if that's the gun. I just saw it for a second. I'm like, that looks like that PM-63 gun. A bunch of them came into the country not that long ago. Freeze, you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
I think Classic even sold them, and then there was I guess they listed for the wrong price, and people were pissed off because.
I remember that. That was a big stink.
Yeah, it was a big stink. It's a company in Florida that brings them in, and you can get parts kits because actually I sent you, Freeze, a listing for a parts kit for one of those this past week. I wanted your opinion on it because it even had a barrel. So,
hey, I'll tell you.
Go ahead, Freeze.
No, anytime you can get a parts kit that actually has a barrel with it is a good. That's a good thing because nowadays they're either not including the barrel or they're cutting the barrel or drilling the barrel. So
yeah, because the ATF has now decided to crack down on importing barrels, which sucks.
Yeah,
I've been watching some videos on the whole Korean conflict or whatever you want to call it, and the Chinese army had these machine guns with the big round drums. You know what I'm talking about?
The PPSH.
Yeah, PPSH.
Is that what those are? Was that standard issue for them?
Yeah, that's a communist bloc. Gun. There's a version of that gun that the Soviets used when they overran Berlin.
But the Hungarians made them. The Poles made them. A lot of your com block companies made them.
Are they worth a shit?
Yeah, they're guns.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah.
They shoot
a lot of
Coke
times
right around.
You'll hear them referred to as a Peppershaw.
Yeah, there's two versions of them, right? Like a PPSH 41 and a 43 or something.
Yeah.
PPS and PPSH.
Yeah.
No, wait a minute. I'm getting them confused with the...
No, you're right. There's two versions. The early version has a wooden stock, and the later version has a wire stock.
What's the caliber?
7.62 Tokarev.
And how does that differ from our 7.62?
Well, okay.
Go ahead, Freeze.
The 7.62 by 25 is basically it's a pistol round. It's a little bottleneck pistol round, but I'll tell you what, it's a hot little round. I always compare it to like a 357 Magnum. It's like a
it's hotter. It's hot when he talks about speed. It's hotter than 9mm.
Really?
Yeah.
9x19. It's a booking little round.
It's got to be a short distance weapon then. I mean, it's not for long distance, is it?
You could probably get them. You could probably effectively lay it on fire 300 yards.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know how accurate the little bird gun's going to be, but if you needed to spray a group of guys
200.
down, you'll do an okay job.
You could hose a position at 200 yards with one of those, and then advance on it, like people advance to that position. Yeah, I mean they're not a 50-yard gun.
Okay.
Yeah, and you got a 100-round drum on there.
Mm-hmm, that drum holds a lot.
so
that's got to be a hot barrel.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, give me some kudos. I'm trying to enhance my gun knowledge.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Yeah,
you're doing good. Except our 7.62, that you're like, quote, our 7.62 is a rifle round, 7.62 by 51, which is it's not the same, not even the same universe. It's like comparing a Model T to Atlas V rocket. Like
Right. Well, is a 7.62 the diameter of the bullet, and then
yes,
say the 19 or 60 or 50 would be the length, or is that how
yes,
that works?
yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's a chamber. So 7.62, like for example, like okay, 7.62 by 51 is the what you would call 308. I know there's some difference. It's not exactly the same, but just for this conversation. So 7.62 millimeters diameter. Then the overall length of the loaded cartridge is 51 millimeters. So, like for example, we just picked up some an estate sale here locally. There's a pending feeding frenzy, and there's going to be. This guy had a ton of stuff, and we, I don't want to go into exactly all of it, but we had access to some of it, and so we picked up some ammo, and we picked up some 7.5 Swiss ammo, which is what that's what we're shooting at right now out of the Blaser R8 7.5 ammo. It's a 7.5 Swiss, I believe, is 7.5 millimeters by 55.
Yeah, 7.5 by 55.
And here's the interesting thing. So there was a bunch of there's a couple small boxes of GP11, and that was cool. And then there's some PPU ammo, which is cool because it's good to have it compared to the GP11. We have thousands of rounds of GP11, but Freeze, there was a box in there of I think it's interarms, like the actual I've never seen this before. It's a box. It's labeled interarms.
Okay.
And I think it's the interarms Sam Cummins interarms that started in Alexandria, Virginia, and eventually the dude moved to Monaco. Like that interarms, the famous gun dealer, or the arms dealer.
Really?
And,
that's interesting.
I was like, wow, check that out. And I was just like, wow. I mean, it's like I'm not into collecting ammo, but it was like, we'll have to look at this stuff.
I don't know. That's ammo that I don't even know if I'd want to shoot that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Sam Cummins is kind of a most people don't know who he was, but and there's a lot I professionally like about Sam Cummins. He really took the modern international arms business as an individual and really took it to a level that was only rivaled by maybe some guys later on like Henri Tomei and like Victor Boot. Like the dude was but he didn't end up on anybody's Interpol arrest list. He's just some good old American boy that ended up, making a ton of money and thinking creatively, and ended up moving to Monaco probably for tax reasons, and or what do you call it, the Monganese. What do you call? What's the other name for Monaco? Freeze.
I have no clue.
Monaco, and where the James Bond movie where they always the Casino Royale's there. It's got two names. It's Monaco and Monte Carlo.
Monte Carlo.
Yeah. So kind of the same place. So he's just like an interesting guy, and I was like, holy cow, this is just interesting. Like no one cared but me. I mean, the people didn't even really stay 7.5, whatever. I mean, like nobody was interested in this ammo. I'm like, yeah, I'll take all of it. 7.5, you guys 7.5? I was like 7.5 French, 7.5 Swiss, 7.5 Swiss. I was like 6.5 Swede, 8mm Mauser. I'll take all of it. And of course, 8mm, people are going to want that. Nobody wanted a 7.5, and I was like, yeah, take it all.
Did you get a good price on it?
Like decent price. Cool. Considering that we're going to be consuming it as kind of like match ammo. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so I don't price that ammo like I would price battle ammo. I price it kind of like as Federal Gold Medal match ammo.
Yeah.
And the PPU ammo isn't obviously going to be like match quality ammo, but it's going to be interesting to have enough of it. And we have some already, but it's going to be interesting to have enough once we kind of get settled with the GP11 ballistics data, the data charts. Out to 700 yards.
Now, I have a couple boxes of soft tip PPU for hunting. for
and
the
but
K-31.
once that's all set, I'd be interesting to take the PPU ammo and shoot groups with it compared to the GP11 because it looks right now, like honestly, that it looks to me that the GP11 ammo's, it's a one MOA round. I mean, it's pretty consistent. These Milsurp guys, they take an idea, like if you research that ammo, they take an idea like this is good ammo, and they will magically turn it into and pretend that it's like gold medal match or something. Or
Well, but from a Milsurp ammo point of view, GP11 is the closest thing you're going to get to match ammo in Milsurp ammo because Milsurp ammo look, it's minute of man ammo. It's not really meant to be shooting in matches, and GP11 is, as far as all the Milsurp ammos out there, is the most accurate ammo. I mean, it's good ammo. I mean, is it gold medal match? No, not. I mean, not even close.
Well, no, but it's human nature because what you get is you get a lot of Milsurp guys, and they'll make that, or Freeze will make a statement, and he'll be like, "This is what this is. This is the closest you're going to get," and it turns into a game of telephone because most of these guys don't actually shoot for performance. Most of them don't shoot that much at all. They don't shoot for performance, and what you just said with a game of telephone, within 2 years gets turned into its match ammo. And they all think GP11 is like, is the quote the famous podcaster Freeze, Jesus' foreskin, and it just ain't that good. It's good and consistent.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting it to hold. It's holding at 1 MOA at 589 yards. But that's almost a 6-inch group. It is a 6-inch group, really.
But with today's shortage of ammo, any ammo is good ammo.
True. That is true.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I will admit along those lines, I do have a sickness just this morning because, in for a penny, in for a pound, as far as, 1911s are concerned, I have been cruising very hard looking for high-end single-stack 40 caliber 1911s and high-end single-stack 38 Super 1911s, just so I can have them for the ammo. I mean, the ammo's expensive, but I can get it. If I'm going to spend a $700 on 1,000 rounds, or per case, it's like, well, I might as well just go ahead and have some options. So,
Yeah.
and
makes sense.
and years ago, I always made that argument, like with the Glocks. Like, there's a reason why we have, like, when I was running Glocks, Glock 17s, 9mm, Glock 22s or 34s, whatever it is, 40 calibers, and Glock 21, 45 caliber. For you can have the same gun, but kind of, you can switch ammo if you have that's the ammo you can get.
It's funny you mention that because I can't remember who I was talking to, but it was one day late. It was about a week and a half ago. I was talking to someone, and he was telling me he had come across a 1911 and a 38 Super, and he was asking me about it. And I was, we were just talking about it. I didn't know you were looking for one, or I would have got the information as to where it was and how much. I don't remember. I don't remember even if he told me or I asked where it was for sale. But
that's probably the one gun. I have to think about it. I'm actually not even. There's a chance I may have never actually fired a 38 Super 1911.
I fired one probably 30 years ago, back when they were more prevalent in the competition area, but...
Well, that's the thing. Like, all the race guns back in the day, and the back in the day wasn't that long ago, double-stack 2011 race guns with big compensators on the front of them, these dudes would shoot 38 Super, and they would load the 38 Super so hot that's kind of like why they created a major minor, I think. Because I could be misremembering that, but they were running 38 Super so hot because it shoots flat It doesn't have a whole lot of recoil because it is a 9mm sized round. But then because that long case was so much powder capacity in it, when you would throw that out of a gun with a compensated barrel, that the compensator, all that gas, would push that gun flat. And so these guys would, and it was the 38 Super was a race gun, had become almost a race gun only round. Yeah. Like 15, 18 years ago.
Well, what you need is to get yourself one of those Kunin 1911s.
Nah, those suck.
I know where one's sitting.
I almost bought one of those in. Oh God, this. I mean, I hate to say this. If I think about it, this could have been 30 years ago. It was during the assault weapons ban because I was like, well, if I'm going to have to be limited to 10 rounds or whatever magazines, I might as well up my caliber. But these Kunins the grip on them, man, they were so huge. Even though they were single stack, it was like this. It ruined those guns. The 9mm Kunins.
Oh, I was talking
I'm
about.
sorry,
the 357.
I'm sorry, the 357 Kunins. And I've seen some. I think even in. I can't remember the calibers, but they were awful. I mean, they were just terrible to hold.
I know a gun shop right now that's got one sitting in the case, and it's been there for probably 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, there was a because I'd even looked into this. This is before I knew you, Freeze, but during that period I had actually bought one of those Spectre pistols, which was a cross between a Glock and a 1911, and is an interesting gun, and it had some problems. And I knew like getting magazines was going to start being an issue, and you weren't really getting the ergonomics, and it was like, so you'd be stuck with the 10-round mag, and then you'd have a fat body like a Glock 17, and it was like, all right, I might as well just go ahead and carry a single stack 1911 and 45 because there's no firepower benefit here, but then you're sacrificing the ergonomics of a fat grip. And those guns are now apparently collectible. I mean, like they're worth. I mean, you get on Gunbroker, it's like holy shit.
Well, didn't Spectre make like a little submachine gun type thing?
That's a different company, but yeah, that's a. I think that might be a B&T type gun. Yeah, that's a gun I believe that came out. I don't think that was made by. I could be mistaken. I really don't know. When I see that gun, I think it's made from outside the United States, but it could be.
Okay, I don't really know.
I think Spectre was the name of a company. I think the Spectre gun you're talking about is actually a model of a sub pistol sub gun PDW gun.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I think. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it could be.
They're out there. You see them. It's on our very, very long-term to-buy list, but it's so low that I don't even mind saying it on a podcast. Whereas like stuff that we're currently looking for, I would never say publicly because I don't want people to run my prices up.
Yeah. Well, no, that's true.
Yeah. So, by the way, the podcast has started. We're just going to go ahead and keep rolling with it. So,
I sort of figured after this first 25 minutes like this of talking about guns, I guess you'll just do the intro later.
Yeah, we're just, congratulations, everybody. This is episode 205 of the John 1911 podcast. We've been going for about half hour. So, let me tell you about the Luger grips. I'll give you the very, very short version. They look fantastic.
They do.
They were $20.
That's awesome.
Off of Amazon from SARCO. And minor fitting, let me do it this way. I started with files and was successfully fitting stuff. And then I realized, looking at the collision areas, I was like, holy cow, there's some major cutting I have to do here. I was like, I'm about to get the Dremel. And I mean, because like it would take a long time to file through some of that, and it was just like, at least
Marky, I have one word for you: Dremel.
I know. I used the Dremel, and I switched to the Dremel, and it cut through it like knife through butter. I did make one small mistake. If I can show you the mistake I made when you see the gun in real life. I won't show it on video on YouTube because I don't want to have drive-by commenters for the next 15 years,
Yeah,
issuing bullshit comments on shit they don't know about.
sure.
Like I may show it on, on the website, but it's because there's less people. But I mean, it's shootable. I don't have to worry about breaking grips. They look great. They fit to the gun. They're not sealed. So you shoot that gun a bunch, and you sweat on it or get it wet. Those grips are going to darken in a day.
Yeah, that's okay though. I like
Yeah,
that.
I think that's how they probably came from the whatever the German factory or where they
Yeah,
make those things.
yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I like that. I mean, you could always put a little boiled linseed oil on them and darken them up and seal them. But honestly, I kind of like the natural wear. Sweat on those babies.
yeah, I mean, again, I'm not a Luger guy, but we had somebody roll in a commenter. I think it was on YouTube, and he's a big Luger guy, and he was like, yeah, there's 2 or 3 different versions of Luger grips, and you need to buy, basically it was, I don't know what he said, 39 post 39 grips maybe. So then that and these Sarco grips, the amount of fitting I had to do to them, obviously, I would guess that they are making one set of grips that will fit all 3
Kind of a little
versions,
universal.
universal, and you have to cut your way down to the World War II ones, and
Yeah.
it's significant. I mean, it is significant. Um, the amount of fitting you have to do. Most of it's internal. I mean, it's
Yeah.
all internal. They round a few corners on the outside. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, and here's the thing, dude, they're $20.
Exactly.
It's like, what the heck? I mean, like if I'm oh shit, like, oh well, $20.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that it wasn't that big of a deal. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I got that off the list. So maybe we'll do a video test with them.
Well,
Um,
speaking of grips, my old Colt 1911 that I used to carry daily.
Yeah.
I had a set of Colt medallion slabs on it at one point, and the inside slab was dark, and the outside slab was almost like a blonde. If you took the grips off, it looked like it was 2 different sets of grips. But the from riding the sweat on my body, the one side it just darkened up.
Oh yeah. I mean, you probably don't even remember this. Remember my old work gun when we met that I carried on the street. It has real ivory grips on it, and the grip pan, same thing. Grip panel inboard was a lot more yellow looking than the grip outboard because of the sweat and heat off my body. And when I bought those grips and put them on that gun, they were so generic white they looked plastic. People didn't believe they were real ivory grips. Like, oh, you put fake plastic grips on your gun, huh? And
Pearl.
within about a couple years, they turned yellow, and the inside one turned really dark yellow. So that's where that comes from. So yeah, and it's a cool look too.
Yeah, oh, it is. And here it's a look that, well, I mean, I guess forgers can fake it, but I mean, when you get like real ivory that ages, it's almost like a look that is hard to fake.
Yeah, UV and heat and moisture. Yeah, it's a very distinct look, and these grips, I don't think I'd put these on a gun today. I really enjoy a tacky, grippy grip, but the thing is, the ivory grips on my old work gun, they've got some kind of shellac. I call it a shellac, but they've got some kind of clear coat on them that makes them tackier than you would think. You would think they would be super smooth and like move around in your hand, and they actually don't. There's some clear coat on it that makes them medium grippy, because I remember even back in the day, like people had I don't know, somebody had sent me some, was it Arthur Spiegel grips or something? And these beautiful, like, somebody wiped oil on this for like 5 years in a cave and made it look all whatever. And like literally these things were like trying to grab a petroleum slick. Like they were terrible. And it was like they look good, but I see that all the time. Like now that I'm looking at 1911s again, and because I'm kind of back into the game, I see a lot of grips on guns that have no business being on a real carry gun. It's like, yeah, dude, I wouldn't run that for shit because I mean, people do what they want, and most people, honestly, like, look, most civilians aren't going to be, fighting in the rain or a sea of blood, and like some kind of Rambo movie. They're just going to have, if they have a gun on them, the gun it'll be fine just to have a gun on them. And if you want to put the fancy wood grips on your gun, great. If it gets you to carry it and have a gun on you, fantastic. But
but a lot of these grips are show off grips. When you go to the shooting range and you pull your gun out of your gun case, and you're shooting, and you can show them to people shooting in there, and everyone can ooh and ah, and and that's fine.
1911s are show off guns. There's just no two ways about it. So I mean, just the entire.
Was that Freeze? How you said you go to the range and you bring your gun in? Didn't something happen at a range about a guy with a gun?
There's been a couple. There was first one. There was a situation at the 702 range in Vegas. And if I remember correctly, and I may be mistaken, the lower that I have for the the one LMT lower that I have for these?
Yeah.
I bought that at the 702 range. I bought that lower while I was out in business, out in Vegas on business, not SHOT Show.
Yeah, no, I remember that.
And it was, I think, the summer of 2008, possibly.
Maybe. I don't remember what year it was, but I remember when you bought it.
I remember, like, Obama was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember just being like, I remember that was my thought process, and I was like, I should buy an AR-15 lower. And because I always hit all the local guns. Whenever I'm anywhere, I try to find a gun store. And they had a I think is it a Defender 2000 lower? I don't know. It was a populated lower. It had I think it even had it was a fully populated lower, and it was just on the wall, and I was like, I'll take it. And I remember I bought it, and they were like, yeah, it's a rifle, just take it with you. Like, I had to be on a plane in like 90 minutes. Now, it was like, yeah, dude, I'm not going to show up at frickin' McCarran Airport with I was like, no, you're going to ship it. Here's the paperwork. Just ship it home. I'm not. I know I can carry it on. I know I could check it, but I'm not, because I didn't bring one in, and I wasn't going to go out with one, and I didn't have any cases or any way to deal with it. And so, but anyway, that range, apparently they were running CCW classes. It's on video. And this guy went in there, and he's in the first you see the video, he's in a classroom. And what's being alleged is apparently he was trying to steal somebody's gun. He sat in on a CCW class to steal a gun. And they caught him going through. He had picked up somebody's range bag or something and was going through the bag surreptitiously while he was sitting in a classroom. And they came in, they saw him, and they kicked him out. And then he did something, and he had a screwdriver, and he stabbed 2 Las Vegas police officers in a parking lot, because they called the cops, and because the cops started to approach him, and the employees are kind of like, hey, get out of here, and the cops show up, and he starts stabbing the cops, and the employees basically gunned this guy down. Like, I don't know, like how many people shot at him. But there was a lot. And there was another one in Louisiana, like last week, where I guess a guy showed up at the gun range with a loaded gun in his hand. And they told him, unload your gun and put it in a holster, dummy. They didn't say it like that, but it's like, come on, what are you doing? And I guess he he apparently was there with people. Like, he didn't show up randomly. He was there with some relatives, and he walked out and he shot a woman through the door, and then he came in and started running around the gun range shooting people, and they shot him. But it was a huge mess, and a bunch of people got shot, and then the cherry on top is the perpetrator, the alleged, wasn't alleged, is on video. The perpetrator's mom got on Twitter and she said, "My son didn't do anything. They executed him. They murdered him." And then, like, this is one of those examples. There used to be this old rule, like in journalism back in the old day, that, on a crime scene, that a news crew or a reporter, especially when they started having cameras, when you show up at a crime scene somewhere, it is, even though you can, don't stick a camera or microphone in somebody's face who's directly involved in it, because they will say crazy, stupid shit and either incriminate themselves, discredit themselves, or make things look poorly upon themselves. And what's happened is Twitter has now enabled people to bypass stuff without having the facts. And this woman got on the internet and said, "This is," and I'm sympathetic. It's like, you're a mom and you have a child, so you hear that your child, your adult child and family, they went down to the local gun range to go shooting, and all of a sudden you hear your son's been shot, killed. Like, I mean, it's awful. Like, you don't want to think your son went down there to, have a mass shooting.
Did you guys get a chance to open the link that I sent you of what the Illinois governor signed for the new crime bill?
I did not.
Is that the one where they're like, I don't know, basically it's lowering protection, the threshold?
Well, I'll give you a quick synopsis. What it is Illinois is now the first state to eliminate cash bail. So let's say I have somebody sitting in my backyard. I call the cops. Now the cops cannot physically remove him. They can only ask him to leave. And this guy's in my backyard. The only thing the cops could do now is write him a ticket. That's all they could do now. That's one facet of it. Another thing is, let's say a guy, God forbid, is in a school and they're shooting up and he shoots up the school. Well, they track this guy and they get him. They arrest him. He could go into jail now and sign himself out. No cash bail.
That's, well, okay, that segues into another, because you hear these stories like they want to do certain things in New York, and they've had some where they've been letting people out and they're killing people again, they're doing things, and they've talked about doing the kind of stuff in Oregon. I don't know if they've done it, but it's obvious Democrats in some, and I'm not trying to pick on Democrats, I guess you can sound communist Democrats, but like in Los Angeles and San Francisco and Seattle and Portland, they have gone so far batshit left crazy that they've lost control of their cities. And it's interesting that this must not be getting enough traction in certain circles, that Chicago, the politicians who are in Chicago must be so dumb and so ill-informed that they are not following the trend lines. Like Kenosha, Wisconsin ain't that far away from Chicago. And, the nonsense that happened up there. But, like, along these lines, you guys have heard, remember how we were talking about parts of Oregon wanted us to break away? I don't want to say secede. Break away from Oregon and join Idaho?
Yeah.
Apparently 5 counties I think it's at least 5 counties in Oregon are actually going to vote to see if they can do that. Now, I don't know what the thresholds are, if they even vote to do it, what the mechanism is in that state to make that happen.
Well, the premise for the bill in Illinois was, of course, it was 100% Democrat sponsored, is they said that 99% of the arrests are all systemic racism. This way, it gives the perpetrator a chance to get out.
Well, okay, yeah,
That's
and look, okay, I guess we've now entered the political section of the podcast. The problem with the comment of systemic racism is a buzzword that people use, especially young college age people, college kids. They don't even know what it means. They can't even identify it. Like everything is, okay. Let me think of an example here. So, okay, like the woman who is being she's been nominated by Biden to let's go back to Obama. Okay, when Obama ran for president, it was like, hey, we're going to be, we're about ideals, we're about making America better. I'm a uniter, I'm not a divider. Literally, that was the phrase. I'm a uniter, not a divider. No drama, Obama. Yada yada yada. Right? Obama becomes president, and as soon as Republicans and Democrats start battling over, do you want to spend $1 trillion or $100 trillion on stuff? All of a sudden, if you oppose Obama on anything, it's racism. And it's all, it's okay. If it's really policy driven, it's economics driven, or it's like, look, we're the Republican Party, we're the fiscal responsible party. These are the fiscal reasons why we're telling you we are not going to support this and why we oppose this. So instead of it being overt racism, the other side, like Obama, they now get to what's systemic racism. It's the system. And it's like, whatever. Systemic racism is a phrase uttered by people that literally can't define what the problem is.
Well, what's funny is they transformed that into a bill citing racism.
Of course,
it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know Illinois. I mean, obviously, I don't. I mean,
you don't want to.
I know, but I mean, it's like I don't see how if upstate Illinois turns into, I mean, if Chicago ends up turning into Escape from Chicago, Snake Plissken shows up for the third installment of his movies, and now it's Escape from Chicago. I don't see how parts of Illinois don't want to break away and make their own state or want to join another state, like.
Well, Illinois is two states. You have the state of Chicago and the rest of Illinois.
A lot of states are like that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Chicago has the most state reps, that are all Democrat, of course, and Cook County, which are all Democrat, of course.
Representation is distributed by population.
By population.
By population.
Well, I mean, that's the same thing with New York. I mean, New York City drives the state, and New York says the state is huge. But the truth is, most of New York is actually pretty conservative until you get to the New York City area.
Okay, all right. Okay, hey, let's all the people say we're boomers or whatever. Maybe Danny's a boomer, but let's go ahead. Okay, for the people who listen to this podcast, I'm going to say something to you that you may have never heard before. You're not going to believe what I'm about to tell you, and this isn't ancient history. There was a time in the blink of an eye when California was the center. I am telling you, it was the center of the firearms universe in the United States. Let me say that again. California wasn't always a liberal lefty wonderland of communist hopes and fever dreams. If you were a gun person and you wanted to be a part of cutting edge gun combat, training, you went to California. If you wanted to work in a gun magazine, almost all the gun magazines were based in California. A lot of the gun content was generated in California. If you wanted to have custom gunsmith work done or deal with custom gun work, Swenson, Van Kamp, A lot of these, it was all in California.
Hogue was an L.A. cop.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's like, I mean, who's the other one? Where's Pac Bar at? Was that in California too?
I believe
Probably.
it was. I believe it was.
But my point is, you know, there are still parts of California that are not communist.
Yeah, Northern California is not.
I mean, they
that.
say that, but I mean, you know, San Francisco. I don't know where they are because we never get to hear from these people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I guess the Hoover Institution's out there somewhere, but which is a conservative right wing type think tank place. But you know, I mean, you could make the argument like, you know, if we're going to start playing this crazy, if large metropolitan cities are going to, instead of being a domineering force in state politics, because there's a large center of gravity, if they become a huge negative force, you're going to see a larger and larger movement to break up these states. And if the Democrat, I don't know how it's going to work, but Democrats supposedly talk about Puerto Rico wanting to become a state and Washington, D.C. becoming a state, because unless something's changed in Puerto Rico, I've always heard Puerto Ricans never, every time people want to say, hey, you want to become a state, the people in Puerto Rico vote it down. It's not like, you know, if I'm waiting for the moment to come when supposedly now the left under the Biden administration is going to tell them, it's going to be telling the American people that the only reason Puerto Rico isn't a state is because America, white racists in America wouldn't allow it to happen. It's like, no, this comes up every so often, and they vote it down because they like being U.S. citizens, but they have less accountability to the U.S. government because they don't have to do certain things. If they're not a state, they're a territory, and they choose to not be a state. Well, if you're going to see a big push to make Puerto Rico a state, all of a sudden Democrats are interested in disrupting the balance of power in the Senate by making Puerto Rico a state. Supposedly, the Washington, D.C. magically gets to become a state, which is on its face unconstitutional. That is on its face unconstitutional. If D.C. is so worried about having representation, all they have to do is go back to Virginia. Okay? But if you see those moves happen, I could easily see California breaking up. I could easily see Illinois breaking up.
Oh, I would hope so.
I mean, like Les Baer was in Illinois for years, and he finally crossed the river and moved to Iowa. Les Baer, custom 1911 maker, custom AR rifle maker.
Yeah.
The crazy man, Les Baer. He was in Illinois for he made his entire business in Illinois. But he's not anywhere near Chicago. He's so far south. Literally, he just crossed. I think they moved They moved less than 20 miles to their new facility in Iowa to get out of the bullshit. And I think we could be seeing a very interesting period. You know, I think the Oregon thing. Also, like, here's the question: if the counties in Oregon break away from Oregon, I don't even know how that would work. Like, if the state house has to approve a breakaway, but does that cover? I don't know. Does that cover Thunder Range? Clint Smith has his facility in Oregon.
Yeah, I have no clue what.
He's in southern Oregon, not that far from the California border.
Okay.
So I'd be real curious to see if that covers him.
Yeah,
it probably would, but who knows?
You know.
Well, actually, you can equate that to the Electoral College when you have mass amount of voters from one area controlling the whole state.
And that's why they want to get rid of the Electoral College. Well,
the reason we have the Electoral College is so large states don't dominate small states. That was the entire. That was one of the negotiating points with the original 13 colonies to join the Union. Okay, it's like, why would New Hampshire want to go into a confederation or union with 12 other states, and 5 of them are the size of Virginia, which are huge? It's like, why would I do this? Because you're just going to dominate everything.
Yeah,
we have a system in place.
New Hampshire can't compete with New York or Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just can't.
So I mean, like as far as it's a straight vote, it's like no, it's the majority terrorizes the minority. So that and we have so many people in this country that are miseducated or uneducated because they go to. My new thing is I'm not going to call them public schools; they're government schools. I think government schools are terrible. I mean, like
Yeah.
it's just terrible. If you send your child to a government school, and I'll give an example. Like when I make that comment, there's people that be like, well, my kids go to a government school in the suburbs, not a government school in the big city where it's really bad.
Big deal.
Yeah, big deal. I mean, like, I would postulate, like, I'm going to name a school that Freeze would be familiar with. It's a government school, but the people that go to that school would not believe that they go to a bad school. I think Oak Hills is terrible. I think I mean, the Oak Hill School District is a suburb of Cincinnati, and it's like, well, people they go to those suburbs to have their kids go to those schools, and I'm like, it's a government school. It's shit.
It is.
It may not be as shit. It's like half a shit compared to the full shit in Cincinnati, but hey, you're not. It's not a good school.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Um, I mean, the kids that go there are a better. God, I hate to say it that way, but they're not inner city ghetto kids. Um, but the curriculum's the same. I mean, okay, so your kids go to a nicer school that doesn't have graffiti spray painted on it, but the curriculum again is the same, and you still have the same leftist teachers teaching the dogma.
Mm-hmm. It's not a good school. I mean, teaching kids to hate America. I mean, all of this is not unrelated. I mean, like I kind of got into it with a guy on the internet yesterday. He was talking about how Freeze. You remember we were in the pit and we shot the Indiana State Police
Yeah.
pistol qualifications because we were setting up for a PD to come in to
Yeah.
shoot on the property,
Sure.
and I didn't clean it, but I dropped some. I basically at like the 20 or 25 yard point or something. I dropped a shot or two, and I didn't clean it. Well, this guy comes in, and I guess Indiana has introduced a bill, or maybe it passed, Andy. I don't know. But basically, Indiana is becoming a constitutional carry state. Is that true? Right?
Yes.
Something like that?
Yeah,
Yes.
they're supposed to vote on it. I think I sent you that.
Yeah, and so this guy, he starts off with the police training, and he starts talking about how proud he is of Indiana and their police state police qualifications standards, which relative to a lot of states, it's not the easiest qualification to pass. Even though they did lower it to a pass fail as opposed to a percentage because most people aren't cleaning it. But then he went into, I think Indiana having constitutional carry is stupid because you should have, a show basic competency to carry a gun on the street. We require people to have driver's licenses.
Okay, let me interrupt you here. Does this guy live in Indiana? Because the reason no other concealed carry states like Ohio has a reciprocity with Indiana is because to get a concealed carry permit, you just go down to your local PD and apply for one and they hand it to you. I mean, there is no training class involved in Indiana, and I think that's probably
I don't. The thing is, I don't know if it's a two-way reciprocity. Here's a couple points. I assume this guy lives in Indiana by his interest and knowledge of Indiana shooting requirements would lead me to believe that he was intimating that he was a resident of Indiana. But here's where he and I differed. And a couple things. I said, number one, you look at the Indiana shooting requirements for the state, for the police departments, and they changed them within probably the last 10 years, the shooting quals. And that's why it's a more convoluted shooting qual. But here's the thing, that shooting qual, when it didn't change, was for years was basically it was constructed under a 6-shot Model 10 police revolver shooting scenarios. And so, but and that goes back to the 40s or the 30s. Okay. Yeah. And it's like, all right, so if you want to make the argument that a state police qualification is about having a standard to be able to, for officer survival, which is really what you're supposedly talking about, a competency on the street, why did this government agency allow a 6-shot pistol qual based standard to exist well into the 2000s? Well, the answer is that nobody wants to talk about is state police shooting standards have nothing to do with officer survival. And you need to get that in your head. Civilian cops know this. Some maybe are naive about it. They figure it out. And civilians have no idea. None of this is about officer survival. What this is you have a standard that's made by a bureaucracy in your state capital, so they can pass the buck to the counties and to the municipalities. So then that standard it exists so the municipality can get insurance so they can pass the buck and not be on the hook if something goes sideways. Okay, hey, well, there's a standard here, and we got insurance, and so we're covered. And then that standard passes on to a lawyer, so he or she can be in a courtroom, and they can whack opposing counsel over the head with it to say, standards, we have a standard, so your argument's invalid, I get to win my case. And at the very end of all of this is officer survival. None of this is about officer survival. This is about a bureaucracy that's far, far away, that is not there thinking about your best interest, is not there to help you, is not there to defend you. It's about absolving themselves of liability if shit goes sideways in your life. And so, this idea this guy has, well, we make police have standards, why shouldn't we have civilians and constitutional carry? Constitutional carry in Indiana is stupid. And I'm like, well, asshole, I said, number one, guns are not hard. Guns are not hard, okay? Driving isn't hard, all right? And most civilians, if you need the application of a firearm, you need to do one of two things. You either need to shoot people off of you, or you need to shoot people to get away from you, okay? And that's not difficult. It is very difficult for a civilian. Remember the police shooting standards that we shot freeze. The tail end of that standard was what? Was that 25 or 30 yards, or was it 20 or 25? Or I can't remember how the last stages of it was far.
I don't remember, but I think it was like 30 yards.
Yeah, it might have been, but it was not far like for gun guys, but it was far. Here's the thing, in the real world, for average Joe Schmo walking around, he or she is going to have a very, very difficult time legally, morally, or ethically justifying taking a shot at another human being beyond about 15 yards. And here's why. Typically, you can evade and escape. You can break contact and push away, because most civilian use of firearms is defensive in nature. And by definition, defensive actions have an advantage tactically over offensive operations, because you get the benefit of defense. You get the benefit of fallback. You get the benefit of defensive structures and knowledge of your terrain. Okay, and this guy was trying to basically make the argument: we enable cops so they can, they have to shoot a standard, and I think civilians should, and it's like, no. I said, what you're doing is you are misidentifying why a civilian standard exists, because it obviously doesn't exist for the reason you think it does. And number two, you're just creating the slippery slope. When a government issues a license is a method and mechanism of control by the government. And that control is never somebody who's right next to you. The control isn't a master plumber talking to his novice apprentice saying, no, don't do it that way, do it this way. That is not what the licensing is. The licensing is a remote bureaucrat who is far, far away, who is removed from your life, that is going to lord over you and make things harder for you to do what you want, to get what you want, to protect yourself or function reasonably in your life. And this is how this kind of thought process that this guy has with we should have a license, constitutional carry is stupid, is the same guy, and we all should know this. The Hughes Amendment, okay, the National Firearms Act was passed in 1934. That's reasonable gun control. Someone's like, oh, don't you believe in reasonable gun control? It's like, yeah, we have reasonable gun control. In 1934, almost 100 years ago, we decided no centerfire rifles over 50 caliber without them being like on a list. Cannons and mortars and, and all the artillery has to be on a list. Machine guns and these rapid fire weapons have to be on a list. Grenades and explosives have to be on a list. That was reasonable gun control. Did it stop there? No. In 1986, years later, it was reasonable gun control was, oh, come on, let's go ahead and just, let's get rid of these machine guns. Who needs a machine gun? Okay, who needs a machine gun? No one uses these. They cost a lot of money. They waste a lot of ammo. Nobody's really for this. Go ahead, give it to them. It's reasonable. Who gives a shit? And now you're finding out they've now turned semi-automatics. They vilified them to the point that they're now treating them, they want to act like they're machine guns. And this whole idea of you have to have a license to carry a gun, or you have to have a license to be able to defend yourself, eventually ends up where you're in New York, where you can't have a gun with more than like 6 bullets in it. And this fool in Indiana doesn't understand this. And his logic isn't even based in reality because he thinks these standards that apply to police officers are about being responsible and officer survival and public safety. And none of it has anything to do with public safety. It's about keeping people from losing their job. It's passing the buck.
And government control.
Same thing.
Well, and let me give you just...
The government wants to control. The government wants to control without having the liability of being responsible for when they fuck up. That is the ultimate problem with government. That is the ultimate problem with government unions. Okay? Government wants to have the ability to fuck with people, but they don't ever want to be on the hook when they fuck up.
Do you know what it involves to buy a gun in Illinois? Let me give you a quick step. Let me give
you mean a certain street corner in Southside Chicago.
With a good serial numbers ground off. Okay, first off, you have to have a FOID card, firearms owner identification card, to even purchase a gun, and that's only after you submit to your background to get it. Let's say I walk into any store just to buy, let's say a Glock 17.
Yeah.
I pay for it, but I'm not allowed to get it for 7 days. Mm-hmm. You're not allowed to walk out with it. Mm-hmm. When you get it, not only does it go to the national firearm form that you fill, it's also now registered in Illinois. Yep. All right? So first you have to have your FOID card. Mm-hmm. You have to wait 7 days. It's duly registered. And now Illinois is wanting to drop to a 8-shot maximum for all weapons.
Oh, see, I wasn't even aware of that one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, now, hold on. Here's the cherry on top, okay, Mr. Guy in Indiana. Here's the cherry on top, Illinois. Here's the cherry on top, Mr. 1911 guy who's like, I don't care. I carry a single-stack 1911. It's not my problem. Or I'm an M1 Garand guy. My rifle holds 8 rounds. I don't care. Here's the next thing. If any of this was about public safety, if any of this was about preventing people from being hurt, have you guys heard what's happening in Canada now? You probably haven't.
That's the airsoft.
Guess what they want to ban now in Canada?
Yeah, airsoft.
Airsoft guns.
No way.
Yes.
No.
Airsoft guns.
Yeah. And I don't
You know,
even understand that. I mean, I don't even grasp why airsoft is so bad.
okay, the thing is, it's no different. That I can prove it. It's no different than the people in Indianapolis letting a police pistol qualification hang in public for decades when everybody's carrying, standard capacity autoloaders. It's about control and incompetence and liability and passing the buck. So it's not taking airsoft from people has zero impact on public safety. It is the government has zero interest in doing this. It is about control and making these contrived, made up bullshit problems like, all these kids running around with airsoft. Bad actors could take the airsoft gun and paint the orange tip on them and they look like real guns. It's like, okay, let's just say that happens. Why is the government concerned about this? Because it's not like someone can sue the government and be like, that person with that airsoft gun, they painted it and they robbed me because I thought it was a real gun, so it's your fault. The government never, ever, ever stops wanting this mission creep. It never stops. And the idea in Indiana and a few other states that they want to allow constitutional carry is such a breath of fresh air in the United States. It's one of the few areas where people are slowly getting their rights back. And by the way, for people on both sides of this constitutional carry argument, look, and when I was 18, I would do constitutional carry. All right? Well, of course I would. Constitutional carry, like, hey, I'm going to the gun range or I'm going whatever. I, as a 49-year-old firearms industry professional, I will maintain CCW licenses. Even if my state allows constitutional carry, I will go get the license for a reason Freeze mentioned earlier. Because I have to travel with a goddamn gun. And I have to go on ranges that are not always owned by the John 1911 business. Sometimes they're police ranges or state ranges. Sometimes they are federal ranges. Sometimes they are National Guard ranges. And I need credentials, as many credentials as I can, to move through the world as seamlessly as possible. So this idea that, nobody's going to have CCW permits is bupkis. The people who will benefit the lowest level person, the least powerful, the least connected, the least wealthy citizens in your society will benefit from constitutional carry because they will be able to say from one day to the next, holy shit, my ex-girlfriend is crazy and she's out there. Maybe I better carry a gun today. And maybe I better carry a gun tomorrow. And then they get the option to set it down when they're like, oh, I'm glad that bitch went to jail. I don't have to carry a gun anymore. These low-level bars to allow people to exercise their constitutional rights, it benefits them. It doesn't hurt guys like you and me. It doesn't hurt professionals. It doesn't hurt society. This is all bullshit.
Well, not to mention, the whole concept of not being able to exercise your Second Amendment right and carry a firearm unless you have a license or whatnot is kind of, that's a whole nother argument. But still,
wait a minute. I'm sure Danny didn't even touch about this in Illinois because I know for sure it's true. It's true in New York. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to talk about one in LA. Another story that just recently made the news. It was actually I had put it up here earlier. So New York, on their licensing to carry a gun, if you are even one of the blessed people that can suck Mario or Andrew Cuomo's dick to get one of these licenses.
And by the way, none of us involved in this conversation right now are on that list.
Yeah. Well,
I know I'm not. I can't vouch for you guys.
But okay, but that license is tagged to that gun. So, okay, wait a minute. Think about the argument that I just made about the person with the crazy ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
All right. Holy shit. Bitch be crazy. Like you come up with this moment where you're like, I should probably have a gun. It's like, well, wait a minute. Your right to self-defense, according to the state of New York, means you should have only the gun that we say you can have. If you're over here at the John 1911 Armory and you get a call from the FBI and they're like, hey, John, Bitch Be Crazy is looking for you and we're looking for her and we suggest you be careful. And John's like, okay, I should probably start carrying a gun. But the only gun that's on John's license happens to be at his house. I can't give him a gun. Hey, man, here's a Glock. Just take it and go home and be safe. Legally, I can't do that. I mean, this, okay, what are we doing here? What's the argument here? Whose interest are we serving here? This is about control and bureaucracy and government. Now, I want to bounce into another story on these same lines. I love this story. It's a terrible story. Have you guys heard about Lady Gaga's dogs in California?
I read that article yesterday. I did.
Yes, I have.
So, is anybody here a fan of Lady Gaga?
I am. I'm a
Really?
huge fan.
Danny?
No, not whatsoever.
Okay, I will.
I'm a huge fan of her. I love her.
I did not know Freeze was a fan of Lady Gaga. I'm impressed. I am personally a huge fan of Lady Gaga. I think she's an extraordinarily talented person, an interesting person.
Okay.
I understand Lady Gaga. I understand Lady Gaga would probably not like me. But as Rush Limbaugh once said before he passed, he said, being a conservative means realizing the reality that the people you want to like you will never like you.
Yeah.
I understand Lady Gaga would never like us, me, and I'm not going to make it personal. But let's get back to the story. Lady Gaga is a highfalutin person. She's a world traveler. I believe she's in
Italy right now.
Is she in Italy? I know she's somewhere far, far away. And so Lady Gaga has a home in California. It's in West Hollywood somewhere. By virtue of the police report, it has to be. And she has a dog walker. Some dude that, I don't know if this guy's like her assistant, or I don't know if this guy is like a professional dog walker. In some cities, that sounds stupid, but that's a real thing.
New York City has professional dog walkers. People make a lot of money.
I'll bet you dollars to donuts in New York City to be a professional dog walker. You probably got to have a professional dog walker license. But don't get me started. Let me get back.
Revenue.
Control. Bullshit control is what that is. So, Lady Gaga, Danny, have you seen the surveillance video of this?
No, I glanced over the story that you sent, and I'm thinking to myself, kidnapping dogs? And I left it at that.
So, we always said that, you're always on camera. Like we warned people, you were always on camera. I guarantee you the people that perpetrated this crime did not even imagine this, because they are literally, the whole thing is on a video camera that's being shot off somebody's house. The audio, the vehicle, the amount of people, the interactions, you can hear people talking, and it's amazing, and it's everywhere. This guy's walking 3 dogs, French bulldogs. I don't really know what that is. Don't care. And the car pulls up immediately. 2 dudes get out, I think at least 2, and they steal at least 2 of the dogs. The dog walker is fighting back. They shot the dog walker, I believe. I've heard once, and I've heard 4 times. I don't know. So anyway, and they drive off. And the guy's screaming, help me. They stole Lady Gaga's dogs, which seems kind of weird.
Yeah.
So now, I think the guy's alive. I think he may live. They're all up in a tizzy out there in California, all the dog walkers. The follow-up story. Apparently there's dog walking agencies in California. God bless them. I love business. I love entrepreneurs. If you want to walk the dogs, dude, I walk the dogs. But now a bunch of them want to get gun permits, and they want to start taking jujitsu classes. They're all virtue signaling to each other because, I need to get a gun permit to protect the dogs. Do you think California let's talk about a state with constitutional carry, and let's talk about a state like California. If dog walkers wake up one day and they're like, oh my God, I think I might need to carry a gun. If they could just pick up a gun and carry it, how does that hurt society? If they're like, oh my God, I'm a celebrity dog walker. Somebody could either want to steal the dogs to sell them on the black market dog market, or maybe someone wants to steal Lady Gaga's dogs and hold them for ransom like it's some kind of Ocean's 11 movie. But these people, none of these people in California will ever get gun permits.
No. Well, and here's the thing. Every one of these dog walkers, and I can't say every one of them, but I'd be willing to bet a fair amount of money that every one of these dog walkers that now want a gun are liberals, and they probably hate guns and have voted for every anti-gun law that has come their way.
I would agree.
I make it personal. I guarantee you every one of these people, if they were to just look at me, not know me, but look at me, look at who I am, look at our business model, look at the stuff we engage in, the stuff we talk about, these people would literally say that I'm the enemy of them. They would literally accuse me of being the worst person. If they could, I'm pretty certain, objectively speaking, the dog walkers for Lady Gaga, as much as I love Lady Gaga, if you gave them the power to put undesirable people into re-education camps, I would be on that list by virtue of my position just in the firearms industry.
Oh, we all would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we'd all be on the list.
But here's the thing. I'm not going to hate these people back. I think they should be able to carry guns. They're obviously a target.
Well, here's a question I have. Let's get now to our analytical side. Obviously, the dog walker was cased or was an inside job.
The dog walkers are all, they've all got all these new things. They're like, no more dog walking at night. And they're doing only dog walking. They're not going to do, they literally sound like some of the stuff we used to have to engage in my old industry. Like, we're not going to take the same way home every day. Take the long way home, drive in a square. They are literally now, all these dog walkers, are like, oh, you know what? I always walked Gaga's dogs at 3 o'clock or like 7 o'clock at night. So now they're going to stagger all the stuff. But here's the thing. I would imagine, I'm assuming this, I'm guessing this, but I would imagine if you were to drive around, I don't know, Calabasas or Beverly Hills or West Hollywood, off the strip, Westwood, Malibu, at any given point, you would see dog walkers everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So, here's the thing.
Absolutely.
If you, as a dog walker, are like, I always walked Gaga's dogs at 7 o'clock because she was next, and I had a client at 8 and a client at 9. So now all these dog walkers, they're all going to be like, well, we're going to walk our dogs during the day, and I'm not going to walk Gaga's dogs. I walked Bruce Springsteen's dog every day at 1 o'clock. I'm going to be sneaky, and I'm going to walk the dog. I don't know why I'm using a gay voice. I'm going to walk the dog at 10 o'clock, and then tomorrow I'm going to walk the dog at 3, and they'll never figure out whose dog it is. Okay. All right, here's the thing. If I'm a dude that's going around that's going to engage in criminal dog snatching activity, do I really care? Because I can just enter that neighborhood at any time like a shark, and there's plenty of seals around. This doesn't actually make a difference.
No, but, if it makes them feel better, whatever.
If it makes them feel better, because everybody thinks they're a target. Everybody thinks they're special. This is all insanity. And these poor people, they live in this place, and now, reality punches them in the head, and, I guess they're magically Republicans now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go that far.
No. But they're getting what they voted for, so I don't feel any pity for them.
Well, think about all the, apparently you kept hearing all these stories, in California especially, but in other places, remember when the riots started and the pandemic started and people were like, oh my God, society, say March, people were like, oh my God, society's going to break down. And all these people ran to the gun store and they were all shocked that they couldn't leave with a gun. Like, what do you mean I can't leave with a gun? I need a gun. I need a gun now. I need one tonight. Well, you got to get the FOID card. You got to do the background check. You got to do the waiting period. Or there was a delay. There's a federal delay. There's a state waiting period. No, you can't. Well, how about I just give you extra money? Like, here's $500. Just let me leave it the day. And they're like, doesn't work like that. None of this works like that. You have been voting for all this shit for all these years, and you just assume that bad people can go to gun stores and get guns whenever they want. And now you're surprised to find out you can't get a gun when you need one, and you need one tonight. Welcome to your America.
Well, it's like the this was several years ago, but some female reporter went into a gun store to try to buy a gun, and she was going to do a hit article on how easy it was to purchase a gun, and was just totally blown away that she was denied on the NICS check.
Yeah, I can't remember why she was denied. I remember that story.
I forget the reason, but she was denied on the NICS check, and it just not only blew her entire premise for the article, but she was just absolutely shocked because she was 100% convinced she could just walk in there, buy a gun, and leave with it, and then dance it around in front of the camera going, ha, 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 see how easy it is? And this is why we need more rules.
And I'm for some reason, I'm thinking she may have had some kind of domestic violence flag in her past, possibly.
I honestly don't remember.
I think there may have been some kind of like mutual combat with an ex-boyfriend years before, and she, they were slapping each other around, and maybe like the police were called. And
here, Marky, I have another caveat to your very good point of government control. Here in Illinois, if you already have your CCW and it's up for renewal, they are expiring because it's taking 6 months or more to even get it back from the state. New applicants are on 8 to 9 months and haven't received them yet.
Damn, that's worse than an NFA waiting list.
Hold on, give me a second, guys. I'm resettling here. That's going to be a problem. That's going to be a huge problem. That's not going to be a problem that people think is like, well, look at the hypocrisy, like, oh my God, this is terrible. The problem with that kind of stuff is you are opening up the very real possibility that you could have a judge rule something unconstitutional. That's the ultimate vulnerability with the NFA. Like, I had this conversation.
What they did is the governor here laid off 90% of the people that are doing the filing and the issuing of the licenses, and he's on TV every other day saying, I'm understaffed.
Well, the thing is, when you go to court, that just is going to make it even more likely that it's going to be ruled unconstitutional because, you have one of the vulnerabilities the NFA has, and it's slowly starting. People are realizing this is going to be a huge problem for the ATF. Okay, the NFA background check takes, 10 to 16 months or something. It may have gone down because maybe not as many people are buying suppressors and class 3 transfers. But there's an argument of there's cruel and unusual. And then there's due process, standards in the Constitution and inherent rights in the Bill of Rights. And if you use a bureaucratic log jam to basically deprive people of their basic, I would call them God-given rights, but lawyers would call them constitutional rights, that is grounds to rule that this process is unconstitutional and therefore invalid. That could happen if that continues. Like a judge can literally be like, "Well, guess what? No more licensing."
Isn't there somewhere a judge is ruling on a motion of something unconstitutional for gun content? I can't.
There's a case that's moving in the Ninth Circuit right now.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, there's a case in the Ninth Circuit right now, the Ninth Circus. And the long story short is you've got a federal judge that rules something. Then you have an appeals I don't know if it's a. I remember if it's federal, then you go to an appeals judge. There's appellate court, then you go to a 3-judge panel, and then you go to en banc, which is all the judges. There is the 10-round magazine limitation in California went to the 3-judge panel. 2 of the 3 judges, I believe, said the 10-round magazine limitations in California are unconstitutional. So they told them to not, and they told the state no more enforcing of arresting people for having more than 10 rounds. And then it just now came out that the entire Ninth Circuit en banc will hear the case. They can kick it up to that. And once you go after en banc, you go to the Supreme Court. And I don't know how many Trump judges there are on the Ninth Circuit right now. There's been complaining that Trump put a lot of conservative justices on the Ninth Circuit. And it's possible that maybe in the Ninth Circuit may all of a sudden turn into may turn into a court that says that standard capacity magazines are now legal in California.
That's interesting.
That would be very interesting. That would fry some of the liberals' asses out there.
Yeah,
you know whose ass it wouldn't fry? The dog walkers.
Well, you know what? Hey, the dog walkers can walk around with 15, 17, 18-round magazines, but they can't have a gun to put them in.
They can have all the mags they want.
Have all the mags they want.
Only if they have a FOID card.
You never get the government you want, but you always get the government you deserve. So
that is a true statement.
So, did you guys hear about Tommy Built Tactical's G36 projects?
I did, and I watched a video on it. It was a pretty long video, and honestly, I don't know what to make of it.
No, I haven't seen the video, but I know. I mean, I didn't think it was that difficult. Tommy Built Tactical, he's a HK boutique gunsmith guy, and he's been building. He's got his start. He was taking SLR8s, right, and converting them to G36s.
Yeah.
And then he started basically. He got so deep into the business, he created his own receiver. A G36 lower was having him manufactured a semi-auto receiver, and started selling Tommy Built Tactical brand new production G36 guns in semi-automatic form. And to do this, I believe, you know what? I don't know because they weren't imported. Did he have to send the receiver to the technical branch to get them to rule that it was legal?
Yes.
So he did get a ruling that it was a legal semi-auto. So that he started selling these, even classic firearms was selling. They called them T36s for Tommy Built Tactical, and they're expensive.
Oh, yeah.
But, they're $300. But I guess now ATF technical branch has come out and said these receivers are now going to be considered machine guns, and they must be turned in to Tommy Built Tactical and destroyed. And Tommy Built Tactical is like, we have permission from the ATF to get a grace period of you send the gun in, we will manufacture you a new lower receiver with a new serial number that isn't considered a machine gun, and you will get a whole new gun, and you don't have to pay us $200 or $100, whatever.
I actually heard that there was like a $238 fee involved.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, I guess the issue is, the receiver that was initially approved, ATF has now decided it's too easy to convert that receiver to full auto, right? That's probably the issue? It's not a machine gun.
It's not a machine gun, but apparently the ATF is ruling it as a machine gun because, and this is where I'm shaky on it, but I believe they're claiming that it would be too easy to make a modification to turn it into a fully automatic weapon.
And the ATF does that all the time.
Yeah,
that is not undiscovered country for the ATF. They do that with parts kits. They've done that with open bolt guns. It's why they don't really like the open bolt semi-auto guns, because talk about being easy to convert to full auto. Whatever catches the bolt is what can you just zip and it'll just run. So yeah, apparently these are convertible. They're too easily convertible, and so they want them back. And then for the listener at home, if you don't know this, if you're like, well, why don't they just add to the, why is it a Tommy if they're plastic? Because it's probably a plastic lower with some kind of steel insert in it or something, or why don't you just modify the lowers so they're not as easy to convert? The ATF has a rule, and the rule is once a machine gun, always a machine gun. And so the only way since ATF now says these are machine guns, even though they only fire in semi-auto, you can't convert them to be semi-auto. You have to destroy them.
And from what I understand, they do have a new receiver made up that is ATF approved.
Because it's a plastic receiver, and unlike a metal receiver where in theory you could destroy the receiver, re-weld it, and change it so it's not a machine gun, doing that with a polymer receiver would be basically insane. Like you would blow away. You're just better off just having new receivers made.
Yeah.
Like if you were to take a polymer, if you were to take a Glock 17 and because you can't bandsaw it, you have to torch it per ATF specs, and you were to take a blowtorch to a Glock plastic receiver and blowtorch it, there would be so much plastic destroyed. Trying to recreate that, to replasticize that, to make it a functional semi-auto gun, you're just better off having a new lower molded. And I think that's what Tommy Built's probably dealing with.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I mean, the thing is, there's less. Actually, there'd be less man hours in just making a new one.
Oh yeah. It could come down to just man hours. Yeah.
I mean, why double your time when you could just make a new one that's approved and just throw it on?
And I do wonder, because I know Tommy Built, like if this is a plastic receiver, they had to have a mold made, and a mold probably costs $75,000 to $100,000. We've looked into doing this in the past, and I wonder if the changes can be made with the existing molds, or they has to have an entirely new mold made, and that would suck for him. I wonder how bad this is hurting Tommy Built.
Well, I mean, it's hurting him. I mean, is it hurting him bad enough to where he's going to stay in business or not is another question.
I don't know.
Well, you talk about changing things as you guys are aware, in my former life, I had to drive a dump truck full of confiscated weapons to the blast furnace. Let's just say I had a trooper with me, a squad in front of me, a squad behind me, and escorting me to the blast furnace. I have never seen grown men cry so bad.
I'll bet you there was stuff in there you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was, and it's like unbelievable. Actually seen grown men cry.
Did you actually, when you were watching them do this in Illinois, the People's Republic, because Danny's not the most knowledgeable gun person. He's our senior political correspondent. So I'm just curious, like if you were standing there with the troopers and they're taking shovels, or like the workers are shoveling stuff into the furnace,
they were throwing them into it. They were throwing them into the end loader bucket, and then the end loader bucket was dropping them into the chute to get to conveyor into the blast furnace.
Did you hear any like words like Luger MP40 Tommy gun?
Oh yeah, I heard all kinds of things. It's most were superlatives, but
oh okay, well, yeah. Like did you hear like Sturmgewehr or M60 or
it was years ago, and most between the tears and the cussing and them shaking their heads, it was just there was a whole lot of different things. I mean, anything that was confiscated in like a 3-year period. It was, and this was state. The troopers were there.
The ATF. This is interesting. So this is an interesting segue. I remember when we talked about once a machine gun, always a machine gun, right? And then we talked about you can't bandsaw, you got to blowtorch. That's federal regulations on how things are kind of handled with the ATF. State regulations, how things can be handled, are a little bit different. Like every so often we'll have a sheriff's office around here. They confiscate a bunch of guns. The issues with them are adjudicated, and then the guns when they're done, if they're surrendered, or the person who, the person, maybe they recovered and maybe like nobody survived. Anyway, they're crime guns, and they've gone through the adjudication process. They will allow them sometimes to be sold at auction so they can raise money to, buy body armor for cops or something. So, but some states have rules, as far as like, well, we don't allow the auction. Like this county, this sheriff says, oh, we're not going to sell guns. We're going to destroy them. And so there was a guy in Virginia, and Freeze, you will remember this guy. This guy, maybe he wasn't in Virginia, but he used to have a business and he sold gun parts. He was one of those businesses where like you'll see guys where like it's a business model where like a company X in the United States, they will go out into the world and they'll scoop up guns overseas, okay? And maybe the guns are importable, maybe they're not importable, but if it sometimes it's just easier or only legal. The only way to get the stuff into the U.S. is to destroy the receivers and break the guns up for parts and then sell parts kits. And it's not always just machine guns. You'll see these companies where they're like, here's a parts kit for a Ruger P89. And it's got all the parts to a Ruger P89 except the frame. It's got like all of it. Every spring, the slide, the barrel. It's because that was cut up and the parts were, sold on the market because
You see a lot of Glocks that way.
Yes. Well, this guy in I think he was in Virginia or West Virginia. Shit, he may have even been a contractor for the ATF, actually, the branch over there in West Virginia. But he had a contract. They had hired an outside guy to take the guns that were supposed to be destroyed to go destroy them. And they didn't have a state trooper in the truck, and they didn't have a squad behind him. They didn't have a squad in front of him. They didn't have a helicopter and checkpoints and radios and guard dogs. And what was happening was eventually it wasn't
I'm special, I guess.
Yeah, you're special. I mean, like, they're treating Danny like he's freaking Hannibal Lecter, like in a mascot, he puts the gun in the furnace. And, and it's like apparently not only has this guy started selling parts, guns that had been slated for destruction and had been certified, gun serial number 12345 was destroyed. Check off the list. Ends up that it's not destroyed. This parts guy is now selling complete guns. The guns are ending up sometimes in police custody in like Cleveland. Cleveland runs an NCIC check on the serial number, and they're like, we show this gun was recovered by the Morgantown Police Department 5 years ago and was destroyed. And they're like, how the fuck is this in Cleveland? And it's like, well, Ray over there was getting more than just the parts. So that's why, Danny, when you had the dump truck full of shit, it literally was like moving Fort Knox gold bullion, because they were afraid like, Ocean's 11 was going to swing from the trees and steal your guns or something. So,
well,
that has happened.
Speaking of destroying guns, I was up in Chicago. This was in maybe 1987, 1988, maybe 1989. And I was at this guy's house, and he showed me a Smith J-frame revolver that a buddy of his had pulled out of the river, because back then what they would do to destroy a gun is they would crush it under a press. And this gun was flat. I mean, there was no grips on it. The cylinder was crushed. The barrel was crushed. I mean, this thing was about half the width of what a normal J-frame would be. And they just dumped them in the river after they crushed them. And he had a guy, I guess, who was scuba diving or whatever in the river. Or I don't know what the guy who recovered it did. But anyway, he said it was given to him by a buddy. He found it diving in the river.
That's probably legal.
Oh yeah, I mean, the gun's destroyed. I mean, the gun was roached. I mean, there was no bringing that back. Mm-hmm. It was basically a novelty showpiece. which
honestly,
I thought it was
honestly,
cool.
we would take one of those over here at the Armory.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then buy a Brent parts kit for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Ouch.
Ouch. Hey, the ZB26 is still not done.
That's more than an ouch. That's something that oh man. Yeah.
But you know what I think surprised me more than anything, especially being a novice into the gun world, the amount of confiscated guns and crime guns and everything. It just absolutely amazed me that there were that many to melt down.
Okay. Speaking of crime guns, I had a firearm stolen many, many, many years ago, and it was recovered. It took a year or two to recover it, and then it spent a year in evidence before I could get it back. So I go to get this gun back, and I'm standing in line at the evidence window, and there's two courthouse cops behind me, and they're waiting to collect evidence for the courthouse. And it's my turn to come up, and I give him my letter and all the information, and he comes back with the gun, and the slides open, and it's just slides open. The gun's nasty. I mean, it is totally nasty. And I pick up the gun and I hit the slide release, and the slide didn't move. It stayed there. And the two, I guess they were bailiffs. Or I don't know if they were bailiffs or just cops doing detail at the courthouse.
Were they deputies? Were they wearing deputy uniforms?
No. They were CPD.
Okay, so the court services is the sheriff's office down there.
Yeah, well, then I guess they were just down there getting evidence for a case, but
okay,
or whatever. I don't know what they were.
I know the building. I know the window. Evidence. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, the one cop looked at me and went, "Oh man, that thing is really fucked up." So I hammered on the back of the slide, and I got it to slide forward, and I'm just like, yeah, well, whatever, But anyway.
That reminds me, I need to call down there because we still have a list of stuff that we haven't gotten back from when we were hit years ago, and I bet you there's some new stuff that's probably popped up.
You know what? It's been a few years. It would be worth giving them a call.
Yeah, we're still looking for some HK stuff and some Glocks.
Yeah.
Hey, do you remember?
But I'll tell you what though. It's amazing that. It's amazing, though, how many stolen firearms do actually turn up.
Oh yeah, especially now with the computer systems and the NCICs. Freeze, do you remember the P-220 Sport that we had recovered?
Yes.
I think it came out of Kansas. I don't know why I'm thinking Kansas, but it came out of Kansas. And somebody destroyed this gun. Somebody put it under a press. And destroyed. It was if you don't know what the 220 Sport is, basically a race gun. It was a steel full-sized SIG P220 and a big compensator on the front of it and giant ass target sights and a super crazy trigger. And it had gotten scooped up when we got hit years ago, and that forever changed how we do business.
I think they were trying to get the compensator off and didn't know how to do it. And they bent the frame. They did it on. I mean, like it looked like they were trying to destroy the gun. I think someone took it on there. I think some do-gooder looked at that gun and decided, I'm going to destroy this gun, and they did, because there's no way what happened to this gun happened on the street. If somebody put it under a machine. And I sent it to SIG, and I knew it was fucked, and they were like, it's fucked. I'm like, would you like us to send it back? I'm like, nah, dude, just you guys can cut it up and use it for parts because it's a pretty rare gun. So if someone ever needs a part. So if you have a SIG P220 Sport and you damage your gun, SIG in New Hampshire, I guarantee we'll have parts for your gun. So it goes off. So
there's the plug of the day.
So we've been going for a while, and I was going to do a couple police blotter things, and couple pop culture things. I wanted to do a follow up on Ella Emhoff the non-model who's now suddenly a model. She was signed and all that. And well, it's like, well, was she really, she was signed. Is she really going to be a working model? Yes, apparently she walked a runway show, but that's not what I want to end with. There's a story out of Florida where a man cut off his neighbor's dick for sleeping with his wife.
I had not heard about that.
You would think that would be what I would want to end with, but no. And then, there's, honorable mention. We have a new world record for blood alcohol on the side of the road, but this is not going to be the police blotter story. The new world record comes out of Oregon. A person was arrested who blew a .77 blood alcohol content. And
how's that even possible? How's that alive?
Alcohol poisoning, I thought, would have kicked in about 30 points ago.
Dude, alcohol poisoning, my ass, that's like being put in a jar of formaldehyde. That dude was ready to be embalmed.
And he was driving.
His blood is 3/4 alcohol. How is he even alive?
Do you remember the video where I was like, stopping power is bullshit, and that cop shot that guy 11 times at point blank range with a 40, and as that guy just kept coming, you're like, he's dead, he just doesn't know it yet? This is literally the alcohol equivalent of, this dude's dead and probably just doesn't even know it yet. But no. I am going to reach out of the police blotter into the pop culture / politics to end the podcast with this story. We are not going to discuss it. We're not going to analyze it. I just want to hang it out there for everybody to spend the rest of your day thinking about as we wrap up this episode.
Okay.
Somebody from the Indian Cherokee Nation has called on Jeep to drop the Cherokee name from their vehicle lineup because racism. That ends episode 205 of the John 1911 podcast. If you want to see any stories or pictures of links of anything we discussed, or you want to see how much your Jeep Cherokee is going to be worth when they change the name, go to our website.
I hate you.
Go to our website, john1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good day.
See you later.
Bye-bye.